Hello and welcome to the Go Ahead Dublin Championship show here on Dubs TV. It's Dublin Hurling Final week. We're going to be building up to Saturday's big game here at Parnell Park, the Go Ahead Dublin Senior A Hurling Final, as the Fianna take on Kilmacud Crokes at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. We're looking ahead to the game with our expert panel for the duration of the show. A little bit later on, we're also going to be checking in with both camps and chatting to the chairman of both clubs as well, ahead of the big game on Saturday. Let's get going. Okay, it's a bumper show this week for our Go Ahead Dublin Championship show hurling final preview. I'm delighted to be joined by former Dublin hurler Dotsy O'Callaghan, former Dublin Under-20 hurling manager Paul O'Brien, and former Dublin Under-20 and minor hurling manager Joe Fortune. Hi, guys.
Hi, Derek.
Hi, Derek. How are you?
Looking forward to a big weekend. This weekend, obviously, it's a hurling final weekend across the county and the Senior A hurling final this weekend. Saturday evening at Parnell Park, it's Fianna versus Kilmacud Crokes. Joe, I guess we'll start with you because you were in this position this time last year, or just a bit earlier this time last year, preparing for the county final with Ballyboden St Enda's, and of course back in 2018 as well with Ballyboden St Enda's. You'll know what the managers are feeling like at the moment. Neil O'Callaghan for Fianna and Donald McGovern and Kieran Dowling for Kilmacud Crokes, what they're going through at the moment in terms of preparing and the nerves and all that sort of thing. I'm sure it's plenty going on this week for county final week.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I was actually at a couple of county finals over the weekend as well, and like when you look at the significance and the importance of it to parishes and to people and to the communities, it's just so big. Like, you know, last year obviously it was very different, Derek. Obviously we didn't have the crowds there. Like, I'll never, as long as I live, I say it'll go with me. I suppose 18 was just such a special year for Ballyboden as a group of players and as a community as well. You just saw what it meant to the people. But look, I'm sure, Kieran have been around and Neil as well. Like, I'm not sure they're going to be overly worried about, like, it's all about the players this week, that they'll get their small little. I know some of the clubs I saw over the weekend had like great ideas where they brought in some of the younger people from the community as well in regards to, you know, prepping them and seeing it and, you know, seeing what it means to be a senior player for Fianna and see what it means to be a senior player for Kilmacud as well. But look, these finals are special. You know, Paul has been there as well as a manager. Dotsy has been there as a player as well. Those big games, the lead up to it, like, that's why we train. That's why we go through the hardship in the winter and stuff. Like, when it comes to the big games, now it's going to be about performance. And look, finals can take a life of their own as well. It might take something special. It might be the reaction to something happening. You know, I saw it myself in 18, like in the first game. You know, Mel's got a goal in the last couple of minutes. I think Oisín was doing the commentary that day, and he said that Ballyboden have it, sure, and Jesus, you know, we'd lads celebrating in the net, and McGowan had the ball over the bar, like, you know, Matt Collins hit the ball out to him really quickly. So, you know, it's how we react to certain things in the final. Like, you know, Reiner got a chance in the replay then to hit a 21-yard free. Most players in Dublin may put it over the bar. Reiner sees a gap in the side of the net, you know, a player holding the hurl possibly wrong and buries it into the net, you know, after, you know, Oisín had got a penalty in the first half. So it's, for me, like, finals, a lot of the time can be about how certain players react to the big moments. And I suppose I was lucky in 18 to be involved in winning one. And I suppose last year as well, being on the opposite side, I suppose that the heartache that comes with having a somewhat successful year, and then for it to end when only one team can stand at the top of the steps of Parnell. Big
time. And I guess, Dotsy, you've been on Dubs TV duty for a lot of the campaign. Overall, looking at the season overall, are these two teams the deserving finalists, the best two teams in the county this year heading into the final? Do you feel that they are the two top teams and deserving to be in this final this weekend?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of is nearly agreeing on that, Derek. You've got two teams coming here, and obviously Joe's involved with Ballyboden there, and Ballyboden and Coola maybe have been the dominant force for the last kind of decade or whatever. But these two teams, you know, this is the fruition of kind of work that's gone in both clubs as well. You know, Neil O'Callaghan and, you know, Kieran Dowling and Donald McGovern as well. They've been involved with their underage. You know, they've shared kind of huge successes at minor level in the last number of years as well. So this is it coming to the fore. They've been waiting a while maybe to get to a county final, especially in the Fianna there. They've never been in one. So I think both teams have been driven on by last year's semi-final defeats as well, and I think you can sense that nearly in their play, and that nearly an element of chip on the shoulder the last day with them. And that I was very impressed with Kilmacud as well. That their aggression levels, they've got through the championship maybe at their ease at times. But they were obviously coming up against a stiff test against Coola the last day, and very impressed with their kind of the aggression levels when they needed to lift it up, and they really kind of set the tone early as well, similar to Fianna as well. So I don't think there's any doubt that these are the top teams, and it's just it's an intriguing contest. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's a very hard one to call because I suppose I think Kieran Dowling and Donald McGovern, they've gelled in some of the younger players into the Kilmacud defence there, alongside maybe the more experienced kind of Keane McGowan and Bill O'Carroll as well. So they've slotted in aimlessly there, and they've obviously got some other talented players around the pitch as well, and they've kind of mixed it up well with their the two lads inside and the attacking threat that they pose with kind of different style players, the likes of Oisin O'Rourke and Dara Purcell, maybe out a bit deeper, out playmaking and picking scores as well. So you look, Fianna have that mix of talent as well, and the forward line that they've got Donald Burke, the Currys are in form, AJ Murphy as well. So I just, without doubt, I think they're the two form teams, and I think it'll be just interesting to see which defence can get on top, and I think whichever defence can kind of get into the game and unsettle the other forward line, maybe I think they'll go a long way, Derek, to giving their team an upper hand throughout the game.
Paul, you were chatting to me before the semi-finals, and we were all expecting kind of two really tight semi-final games. It didn't really turn out that way. I don't think it's any doubt that certainly from the semi-final games that these two teams were deserving winners and into this final as well. What did you make of the semi-finals overall? What was your assessment of the semi-finals?
I suppose going into them, I thought, like yourself, I thought they were going to be two very close games, and like the performances of both Crokes and Fianna were excellent on the day, and we'll say in very different ways they were good. Like I thought, we'll say tactically, I was really impressed with Fianna and how they set up to counteract some of Lucan's strengths, and in particular, we'll say Shawnee McClelland, we'll say his puck outs, and he'd been lasering a lot of puck outs to Alan Murphy in particular, and Alan Murphy was good at carrying ball out of defence, and they completely shut that down, and it was only the last 15 minutes by my watching that Alan Murphy got on any ball, and like he was actually a huge kind of attacking threat for Lucan in previous games, and they completely shut him down. And like another thing about the puck outs there and the Fianna setup, like Lucan didn't win a single puck out past the halfway line in the whole game, of their own puck outs. And looking after teams, like you need to be winning ball as far up the pitch as possible, and like they did. Like I suppose the Fianna allowed certain fellas to take puck outs in and around that 21-yard line, and like it's very difficult to be working the ball up the field and getting scores from short puck outs. So like the Fianna were really, really well set up. And then we'll say if you compare that to Crokes just continue to do what they've done in every game so far, and they're doing it really, really well. We'll say their quality of ball coming from the likes of Pádraig Linehan and Mark Rogan in particular. They're the two main fellas delivering ball into the two lads inside. The quality of ball they're giving is excellent, and it's quick and it's fast, and it's it'll be interesting to see now. Are they allowed to, we'll say, do that again this coming weekend? But then and Dotsy mentioned it there. Like we'll say, the aggression levels from both teams in the semi-finals, their quality of tackling was excellent, and there was actually two instances, one from either team and it was in the same part of the field in the last, like there there was a turnover Nafina done on Rollo Smith and got a score straight off it underneath their own dugout. And then similarly, Crokes done another one there with 5 minutes left, and Lorcan McMullen got a score from again under their dugout. And just the aggression levels of them two turnovers and the quality of tackling from the forwards in both teams is something that really impressed me both days.
Yeah, I think I remember a score. It was a free, actually. I think Nafina won right at the very end of the game, when the game was pretty much won, and the reaction from the Nafina guys actually to winning that free, when again the game was pretty much over at that stage already, was pretty special to see in terms of their intensity and their aggression, even at that late stage. Winning a free meant so much to them. Joe, you were on Dubs TV duty for the Nafina versus Lucan game. Nafina had somewhat struggled a little bit in the game against St. Jude's in the quarter-final, and could easily have lost that game both in normal time and in extra time, finishing the stronger in extra time to win out, I think, by 3 points in the end. So they needed a huge improvement the last day against Lucan, and they got it. They pretty much dominated from start to finish.
Yeah, and I suppose it's easy for teams as well, like Derek, Paul spoke about aggression there. It's easy for managers to speak about aggression, but sometimes you have to cross the white line and actually show it as well. And I think one thing I've been very impressed with over the last couple of games, a couple of times I've seen Nafina, is that it's not just talk coming from the camp. Like, obviously they're going to be very well coached with Rochi and Neil and Colin Burchell and whatever involved in that setup, but they're actually bringing that aggression across the white lines. I saw them in the league final against Bowden as well, and it's not just talk that's coming out of the camp at the moment. They're actually, they're manning up. The Jude's game was a physical battle. Jude's were in their face for the full length of it, and like, you look at what Rush has brought to that back unit, having him there at 6, and there was a big battle probably between himself and Kelly that was expected to happen. But it's not that, like, Rushy just has that presence, and I suppose he loves driving into tackles, and having the way they sat young Fergie Brannock back in as well. And I made a comment a couple of times on I was actually very impressed with how Nafina set up. They weren't going to allow ball to go inside on Crummy, and like what Paul said, even when Charlie Kerr was in there too, they just didn't. It just was so well planned. And look, when you've days like that, and when Nafina get on top of the team, they have that kind of youthful exuberance as well. If you look down through the team list, even I would doubt there's very few players that at some stage haven't come through Paul's setup or my own setup with Dublin. They've all represented Dublin at a very, very high level, and I think no matter what happens on Saturday evening, I think this has to be very good for Dublin hurling going forward, because the young players now are really stepping up. I think Paul mentioned a couple of weeks ago about a changing of the guard possibly in Dublin hurling, and it might well be happening. The young guys that have been doing well for Dublin at underage level are really starting to step up now in the club. And like, you look at the role that Michael Murphy has with Nafina as well, the two Currys, Barrett up in the forwards is working well. I really rate AJ. I've made it public. When AJ's on form, like when he's on top of the ground, he's very, very dangerous inside, and we haven't mentioned Burke yet, so you go back to where Baxter comes from the back, so Dee's presence the last day. Like, look, on paper, Nafina have a very, very good team, and the one thing that I like about them this year is that they're starting to believe, and they're starting to show maybe not only the kind of youthful exuberance, but they're starting to show the belief that other people in Dublin hurling had in them for a long time as well. And just really quickly going back on what Dotsy said about Crokes too, like, if you think of 18 is only 3 years ago, we beat Crokes in a county final. And if you look at the change, like the bravery of a management group and a team to come in, and you look at what was there, so you had Dwyer, you had Niall Corcoran, you had Clinton, Matt Collins in the goal, Ross O'Carroll, like all real strong pivotal characters in that Crokes team. And what they've transitioned now to, Gibbons, who I've been very, very impressed with in the goal, young Grogan, Lenihan, Sheehy, it's just incredible. Like the changing of the guard in the back line, which maybe some clubs would be afraid to do at times. So from both perspectives, I know the question was based on Nafina, but Nafina stood up to Jude's. Nafina really stood up to Lucan. And we can talk about whether Jude's or Lucan were happy with their own personal performance, but from a Nafina performance, the way they were set up, it doesn't seem to be just talk that's coming out of the camp. They seem to be really up for that physical battle, and they're going to have to be on Saturday evening, because Crokes have exemplified physical battles over the last couple of weeks and months.
Yeah, I think Neil O'Callaghan's made a big point of saying that this year, that they're not going to lose that battle out in the pitch.
I think they're printing T-shirts out in the Movie Road that we won't lose the battle. Yeah, it's certainly been a common even that from the language from the players as well. So it's obvious that they're kind of, that's their mentality kind of, I think, even stemming from maybe even last year's semi-final defeat as well, So it's definitely an insight into how they're approaching this season, I think, and it's certainly it makes for with the Kilmacud Crokes aggression levels, I think, against Coola, this makes for absolutely a ding-dong battle, I think.
Yeah, I guess it's one thing to have the quality, but another thing to bring that kind of aggression, that battle into the game, which is what they'll need. Dotsy, you were at Parnell Park for the second game as well, the Crokes versus Coola game. Crokes winning out 118 to 113 in the end, a 5-point win on the scoreboard, probably a lot more than that in reality. Obviously, Sean Moran's late goal putting a bit of a better gloss on the scoreboard from a Coola point of view. How impressed were you by Kilmacud Crokes in that game? And I guess going into the game, they were favourites. Coola had been maybe struggling to click all season, but certainly Crokes dominated the game really for the large part. How impressed were you by Crokes in the game?
Yeah, very impressed. And I suppose in fairness to Coola, they had come through kind of huge battles as well to get to the semi-final. So they were certainly, they were certainly going to challenge. We expected a big challenge from them as well, but Kilmacud met it head on from the start. And, again, we spoke about Fianna and being really loud in Parnell Park. The Crokes lads were jumping around, and from the off, they were, in Coola's faces, and just you could sense that how up for it they were. So look, that's a starting block for any team. You have to be, especially when you're getting to the latter stages of the championship as well. So look, very impressed with them. I think they have a lovely mix, like we spoke about there, kind of, Hayes and Alex Considine inside, and what a threat the two lads are as well. And, they've goal on their mind a lot of time as well. So, and I really like Oisin O'Rourke coming out, and, he got an outstanding score, winning high balls as well for a small man. Very brave on occasion the last day as well. So he's got that playmaking ability as well. He knows what sort of ball to get inside to the lads as well. So they're all kind of cohesive, and they're linking up well as well. So Dara Purcell has been there. His first kind of season playing senior club. He's obviously been, we'd know him from underage Dublin teams as well, and we know how talented he is as well. So there's probably a lot more to come from him as well. So could this be the day that he explodes into it as well? And obviously Fergal Whiteley's having a really good season as well, and Lorcan McMullen. So these type of players out around the middle, and they're well able to take scores, and they're well able to, find the man and find the players and link it up around the middle as well. So yeah, and Joe spoke about some of the defenders there as well. Davy Crowe, I think, has been excellent as well. So look, they seem to be gelling in aimlessly as well, and it's a lot of players out there haven't got that experience of the county final that we spoke about. So it's probably just interesting to see who deals with that well on the day, if that's a factor. So yeah, no, it's certainly one to look forward to, Derek, and Kilmacud will be coming into it. I think it's 2014 is it since they've last won it as well. So they've had a big drought for the amount of the players that they've had and the talent that they have in the club as well. So massive day for both teams.
Paul, a word on Coola and Lucan. It's Lucan's second semi-final defeat in a row, obviously losing last year. So I mean, they're going to take big positives from the year. There are big positives from the year, but still it'll be hard to take, especially that performance that they put in the last day against Nafina. It's going to be hard to take this defeat, even despite the positives that they can take from the year. I mean, really, people were feeling they had a real chance to go and win the thing this year, and they just didn't perform on the day. And again, Coola, people have been writing them off all year. They're a spend force, all this kind of thing. They still got to a semi-final and within 5 points of victory heading into to get into a final as well. Is it wrong to maybe write them off as a spend force? Is that highly unfair on them?
I actually think Joe makes a really good point. If you compare Nafina and Crokes, we'll say, to Coola, and the age profile of both teams, like Coola have obviously had massive success of a kind of a small cohort of maybe 22 lads who were there since we'll say 2013 to now, and like a few lads from them winning All Ireland teams are gone now, and they're not being replaced by, we'll say, young lads coming through, 18, 19, 20 year olds. they're being replaced by some lads who were on the panels, the All-Ireland winning panels, and didn't see game time. Didn't see too much game time when Coola were really successful, and that's probably not a good balance and not great for Coola. They do need to get some fresh blood into what they're doing, and like that does take bravery, as Joe says. And you know what, I didn't really look at, we'll say, the Crokes situation of losing Niall Corcoran and Ryan O'Dwyer, we'll say, from the centre of their defence, and getting in Davy Crowe and Brian Sheehy and Park Linden. Like I thought Brian Sheehy was my man of the match against Coola anyway. He marked Con, and Con clipped his few points, but they were all points from the outside. And if Con got possession of the ball, it was very much Brian Sheehy was like, go on, you can have your point, but you're not taking me on without getting a wrap. And like having seen Brian Sheehy hurl and the type of hurler he is, like there's nothing handy going to be coming off him at any stage when he plays, because he's a seriously dogged competitor and just he won't give in. And like Porrick Linehan was the same. Like them young lads who've come into the Crokes backline, they're really relishing the battle, and it's really good to see. But like, and look, Coola were obviously missing Liam Murphy and Mark Schutte, who would have created added threats up front, but they were, with the few people missing and not as much young blood coming through, they were slightly limited, and like they obviously had massive success, but I suppose time moves on, and Crokes and the Fianna are showing that. And now look, cool, it'll probably come back next year or whatever with some different or a few more lads from the country or whatever the case may be. But it's great to see what Kilmacud and the Fianna are doing with teams just full of dubs. And I think we'll say of the lads starting, there'll be 29 from Dublin, and that's down to the quality of the structures in Dublin, in the club leagues, etc., and good quality lads coming through, so it's good to see. Look, Lucan were just very disappointing on the day. Like I thought Dowser was the only real one to stand up in their forward line. Obviously Kevin Burke shut down Paul Crummy really well, and like Paul Crummy's been excellent all year, and like how, and Joe mentioned about Fergie Bratnock as well, like the Fianna put different fellas in different roles on different days. Like some days Liam Rush is centre back, other days he's wing back. Like they've had Sean Curry, they've had Fergie Bratnock, they've had Micheál Murphy, they've had Paul O'D in that sweeper role, they've had Kevin Burke in it for small periods of games. Like their adaptability to whatever challenge the opposition present is really good. But yeah, Lucan just misfired on the day. But again, like they'd good young lads there. Like it was really good to see, we'll say, Colin Walsh, who's still under 20 next year, Charlie Kerr, who's still under 20 next year, them starting in county semi-final, driving things on. And then like Luke Walsh, they have a lot of good young lads and more further coming through. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And they were unfortunate to lose the county semi-final after extra time there in minor at the weekend as well. So again, they've a lot of good lads coming through. So they're going to still be in the mix for a long time.
Okay, it's time for part one of our club focus now. This week we're going to be chatting to both Go Ahead Dublin Senior A Hurling finalists. First up, it's Na Fianna. Okay, I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Smith, the Na Fianna chairman, for part one of our club focus this week. Paul, thanks a million for joining us.
Good to talk to you, Derek, all the time or any time.
Thanks very much. Well, it's an exciting week for the club, Paul. First ever senior hurling final this weekend against Kilmacud Crokes. I'm sure plenty of excitement around the club this week.
Yes, indeed. The atmosphere has been building for the last week or so since the semi-final, and the uniqueness of it is goes without saying. First ever senior hurling final for the club, so it's it's a very exciting time around Mulvey Road at the moment.
Great stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on, about how important it is and how big it is for the club, I guess, to be in a first ever senior hurling final. But first of all, for people who don't know much about Na Fianna, tell us about Na Fianna, when you were formed, and I guess where you're based. Obviously, you mentioned Mulvey Road there being the base as well. So tell us a little bit about Na Fianna itself.
Well, we're the main GA club, the main unit in Dublin 7, 9, 11, covering those districts, postal districts and beyond, I suppose. We're based in St. Mulvey Road. The club was founded in 1955 with, progression through the years and decades, to the extent that we're one of the biggest units now within the GAA, mainly due to our work at underage level. We're fielding over 200 teams weekly across all the games in GAA: hurling, football, ladies football, camogie, handball and rounders. And we would have a very active part in the local community.
And how many members, I guess, do you have roughly? I mean, like you mentioned, it's a growing club. Certainly, it's one of the bigger clubs in Dublin. How many members have you got roughly?
The numbers have just tipped over 3,000 for the first time ever. Our juvenile base, that's up to under 16, passed the 2,000 threshold in the current playing year. So we're going from strength to strength, with an emphasis on coaching and development and a pathway to playing into the adult ranks is first and foremost with the club policy.
Great stuff. I mean, obviously you're doing very well at senior level. We've seen that over the last number of weeks, and obviously I guess that comes from the great work you've done at juvenile level over the last number of years, probably number of decades, or certainly the last decade or so as well. Tell us a little bit about that work that you do at juvenile and underage level. I'm sure, like every club, Saturday mornings around the club is a busy time. Tell us about the work that you do at underage and juvenile level that we can see maybe the fruits of a small bit now at senior level.
Well, this is it. Beginning, I suppose, in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, we started with road leagues, and the demand then progressed that we developed our nursery on Saturday mornings. And from humble beginnings of 40, 50, we now have a situation where we have to split them on a Saturday morning because of the vast numbers. So all are catered for, from under 5s, under 4-year-olds will arrive with their younger brothers or sisters, or older brothers and sisters. And significantly this year, our ladies and girls numbers have reached par with the boys. So it used to be a 2-to-1 ratio, and now it's 50-50 almost. So there's been a phenomenal growth in camogie and ladies football in particular, and then across all the other teams as well.
We mentioned at the very start it was an exciting time for the club, obviously, this week. What does it mean, a club the size of Na Fianna? I was here at the semi-final against Lucan the weekend before last, and there was just huge excitement about getting into a first ever senior hurling final. This is a big deal for the club. How important is it to be in a senior hurling final for the very first time?
I think in the development of any club, it's the numbers we have. It's important that's the target, that's the level you want to be playing at. But I think it's a recognition of the work that has gone on as I mentioned, over the last few decades, in particular at juvenile, under 16, minor, and under 21. There's been a significant amount of championships being secured and silverware returning to Mulvey Road, and I think this is the culmination of it. These players have been nurtured down through the years, and I think it's a fitting reward for them that they're in the final, and we know they'll win, lose or draw. They'll do themselves and their families and the club proud come Saturday.
You've mentioned the juvenile structures, the great work being done at juvenile level, but I guess it's a big step up from juvenile and from underage level in general to senior level, and the success that you obviously want, that every club wants at senior level. Tell us about the work that's going on at senior level across all the codes. Tell us about the work that you're kind of doing at senior level to, I guess, bridge the gap between the great work you're doing at juvenile and trying to get that success at senior level as well.
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, we have a pathway, and we place large emphasis on player retention from minor, which is significant. Last week, we had the change in structure at Dublin County Board level to recognise national level of the importance of player retention, and a new methodology put in there, a new age group structure put in by the Dublin County Board. I want to acknowledge that, and we're fully supportive of the policy there of player retention. We place a lot of emphasis on it, and we have increased over the last number of years. We've increased our adult teams to facilitate these players across all the codes. We've seen an increase in our adult playing members and teams, and facilitating them with teams. So I'd like to thank all the various county boards across all the disciplines for facilitating the competitions, and players get games week in, week out, and the good players will filter through to the stronger teams. But we're also providing games weekly for anyone else who wants to play and continue playing when they come out of minor.
Yeah, I guess, and that's one of the things I was going to touch on now is the fact that it's not just the senior teams or the progression to the senior A, senior B teams. There's a lot more to the club than, I guess, just what we see in Parnell Park on Saturday evening against Kilmacud Crokes. I know from speaking to people and looking at your social media channels during COVID, there's a lot of great work that went on during COVID as well, outside of, again, what happens on the pitch. It seems to be a lot of work going on in the club that benefits the whole community, as opposed to just, like I say, having that pathway to senior success, which is what you want, but it seems to be more about the community as well in the area.
Yes, this is it. We play a vital role in our community. We wouldn't exist without our community. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but we have various community groups, notwithstanding COVID. Significantly, our next door neighbour, School Katrina, due to COVID restrictions, they are using our premises currently for their TY years, and we're proud of that partnership we have them. We appreciate the playing facilities they provide for us with their pitch, which is adjacent to our main grounds. We also got involved in many initiatives during lockdown, both to encourage community involvement, but to also keep the spirits up of all our players at juvenile and adult level. And we had many online and innovative gigs to keep everyone happy and keep everyone involved and keep morale up, I suppose, that to advise them that when all this ends, we will be back playing. And thankfully, last May, we did get back probably to some normality with games on a regular basis.
Yeah, I watched I think it was your Instagram account during lockdown. There's plenty of activity on that, and great old crack. I didn't understand a lot of it, maybe because there's a lot of Nafina internal jokes, but it was fantastic to see the kind of great camaraderie. And that was it, I guess. Keeping people entertained during COVID was maybe half the battle, and certainly I think you did that across your social media channels in terms of keeping people engaged with the club, but also entertained as well, which is a difficult thing to do during the second or third lockdown. How has the club managed in general through COVID? You mentioned about the work that you did during COVID. Has it left any challenges for you now and going forward? What sort of challenges do you face as a club? Because, like I say, you have a huge amount of members, over 3,000 members. Things are going well on the pitch, but I'm sure there's challenges as well that the club faces.
Well, there's challenges for every club, no more than any urban-based club. Probably we feel we've managed all, no more than, as I said, everyone else. We've managed the COVID restrictions the best we can. Our biggest hindrance is lack of playing facilities. We effectively have one main pitch in Mulvey Road. Any other pitches we use, we're tenants, so to speak. But I would like to acknowledge our, the relationship we have with in particular with the schools, St. Vincent's and Glasnevin, School Katrina, and we have a very good partnership with ECU, which we signed recently, and we appreciate the the use of their facilities on an ongoing basis. But that would be the biggest challenge. There's always challenges in a voluntary organisation, and getting teams out every week and meeting deadlines. But the show goes on, and again, pay tribute to our army of volunteers who keep the show on the road.
And then I guess the big thing then is looking to the future and what your plans are for the future to continue to grow the club, because you've spoken about it growing so much over the last 20, 30 years. I'm sure you're aiming to continue that growth. What are your aims and plans for the future for the club?
Well, our plans are to keep providing the games, keep providing the community and social outlet. We will facilitate, like all GA clubs, we facilitate all comers. We expand all the time where we see fit, and we enter extra teams, and long may that continue. We, as I mentioned previously, our pathway and our policy is to develop players for life and for the future, and to keep that going as part of our community remit for all. And if we can play a small part in that, like all other GA clubs and indeed all other sporting organisations, that is a challenge in itself, and long may it continue.
Yeah, and I guess it's an interesting one as well, because it's such a big area, I guess, being covered. But the great work that's going on at senior level can't be underestimated in terms of, I guess, grabbing the imagination of the younger players that you have coming through as well. And we've seen, your footballers and hurlers, senior hurlers, both winning the league this year, which here in Parnell Park, which was well received. Plenty of great excitement there. Obviously, the senior hurlers in the county final. We've seen the ladies footballers in the county final week before last, unfortunately missing out on the success there. Senior footballers in the quarterfinals. So there's plenty of, we've seen plenty of Nafina at senior level over the past number of weeks and months. And I guess that will encourage younger players to come through as well, and engage those younger players to come through, which I guess is part of the aim of continuing to grow the club.
Yes, indeed. And significantly, all of our senior teams across all the codes, the panelists and players on those teams, and even from the household ones that we see on national TV playing for our county, down to the backbone of the team, the majority of them are involved in coaching. Significant amounts of hours they put in, as well as with their own panels, to pass on their skills to our juveniles, and we're indebted for that. And so when the kids go down on Saturday to support these guys, they don't just know them as the senior hurlers, they know them individually as their coaches. And that spread, as I said, across all our codes. So again, it's I'm not going to say success breeds success, but that keeps the whole club and community atmosphere going, and the kids can look up to these guys and know that next week, when win, lose or draw, they'll be back coaching them and encouraging them and developing the skills with them. And one day they'll be in their jerseys, hopefully in Parnell Park, in a county final.
Fantastic. You mentioned the players going down and coaching, and you mentioned the great volunteer work that's going on at the club. I'm sure there are people around the Mulvey Road area or the area in general who would like to get involved in the club, but who don't know maybe what they want to do or how to get involved in the club. Tell us how can people get involved with the club, either from a coaching point of view or an administration point of view, if they want to get involved with Nafina.
Well, all the usual media channels are available, and Saturday morning is the hub of activity, and anyone that arrives there, just make yourself known at the coffee dock or any of the administrators involved and leaders of the various nursery groups. And we're here, we're open for business, you're always welcome if you have a coaching pedigree. The vast majority of our coaches come through the juvenile section. They arrive with their children at the nursery, and we encourage them to get involved, as many as possible.
Fantastic. And the website is clgnafina.com, so you can get in touch with yourselves. I've had a look, and there's plenty of information on clgnafina.com as well if you want to get involved. And the social media channels. The Instagram was very entertaining during lockdown. I'm sure still plenty of entertainment coming out of the Instagram account. So follow Nafina on Instagram as well as Twitter. Paul, listen, thank you very much for joining us today and for having this chat ahead of the county final this Saturday evening against Kilmacud Crokes. I know it's a big occasion for the club, big occasion for the county, obviously, but big occasion for the club as well, it being your first ever county final. Wish you the very best of luck both this weekend and also going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay, welcome back. Now let's look at the final this Saturday evening. Dotsy, we'll start with yourself. I guess what are the key matchups that you see coming into the game this weekend between Kilmacud Crokes and Fianna, where the game will be won and lost?
I suppose, Derek, you're looking at maybe the threats inside from a Kilmacud point of view. Alex Considine and Ronan Hayes. So, can the Fianna full back line there? Would you see Baxter maybe and Kevin Burke? Obviously, if the ball is coming in there, if they're getting the ball in, there'll be a huge battle there. And if the boys can win possession there and make hay, that's going to be, a huge lift for Kilmacud. Now we speak about that, but you've got on the flip side of that, we spoke about the Nafina forwards there. We're mentioning the talent that they have. You've got the Currys coming into some serious form. You've got Donald Burke, as we know how talented a forward he is. So if he gets into his groove there and starts clipping scores, and that's going to be a massive lift for Nafina as well. So yeah, in regards to matchups, I suppose it'll be interesting to see. Will Kilmacud, they maybe Bill O'Carroll possibly following Donald Burke around, so that could be an option. And then Paul is mentioning Brian Sheehy there, and we mentioned Davy Crow and the form that these lads are in. So I think Kilmacud will be, they'll be confident that these boys can pick up, say, the Currys, AJ Murphy, and I'm sure they'll be confident that they can do a job on them. But look, it's easier said than done as well. There's a lot of players coming into this final in a lot of form as well. So I suppose they're just some of them, Derek. But it'll be look, who knows what way they'll match it up themselves. But it'll be interesting to see, and obviously will play a key factor in how the teams are performing and who can get on top in some of the crucial battles.
Yeah, I think, Joe, it was mentioned earlier on that they're both very strong attacking teams. Will it be whichever defense comes out on top? It will be the winner in the day. Will it be pretty much a battle of the defenses insofar as who can actually stop the other from maybe scoring as much as they have done over the past few games? Would be the winner.
Yeah, possibly. I think Derek, one thing as well, and I suppose Paul would know this as well, from when you're in that frame of mind, getting into a final and looking at matchups, like you can't predetermine either where guys are going to be. Like again, do you want Rushy sitting at 6, marking a Fergal Whiteley who's going to be kind of buzzing around the place in around midfield? I don't see Bill O'Carroll marking Donald Burke. I think you need, like Bill has done actually really well since he's come out to 6. The fact that Young Sheehy has been doing really, really well at 3 obviously allows Bill to be in that 6 role. But look, when we looked at Nafina last year, the movement that Donald Burke has, you need somebody who's going to be willing to sacrifice their own game. But then what happens, you have I suppose we looked at Madden marking Donald Burke last year, did a really good job on him in the semi-final. But if Donald Burke starts at 14, as a management, sometimes it's nearly panic stations then. Like there has to be a level also, a fine line between getting over enamored with kind of matchups. I look, as a manager, you sit back from it and you look at where guys possibly will be, and I'm sure the two lads this week, Kieran and Neil, will do the same. But you can't become over consumed with it, because you just don't know. Like what Paul said a few minutes ago, I have no doubt like Nafina will throw something different into the pipeline. If Donald Burke starts at 14, that suits Bill fine 100%. But if he's roaming in around between 11 and 10 and 12, I don't think Bill needs to go. I think they need Bill in that central position as well. So do you look at somebody like, young Linehan, or, somebody with that bit of youthfulness and carefree attitude like Paul spoke about, as in, look, yeah, grand, go out on the sideline, hit a ball over the bar from 40, 50 yards, but you're not getting through here. And again, that's from that perspective. And then you look at the two boys inside for Crokes, like, and planning for the two of them, like Hayes on fire, got 3 goals the first day out. Considine for me, like, look, I wanted him in 16 when we won the Leinster final. At the time, I think he was doing his leaving cert. I know he'd been involved with previous minor squads with Paul and Johnny and that, but I see like he's a big unit. He's direct. He's similar to Con in ways, like in that he has that directness towards running at goal, and he's not afraid of getting a bang or a slap either. Like, he got plenty of them over the years against us, but he's well able to go at it. Berkey inside for Nafina, I've been impressed with him, so I'd imagine that's possibly one there. But then who looks after Hayes? Like, Hayes in his own right has really blossomed into a super forward for Dublin going forward. Again, going back to, he started to perform based on what maybe other people would have expected him to do at an underage capacity. But look, the matchups are massive, and I think the only time you'll see that, like, who follows Oisin O'Rourke out to the middle of the field. And so Peter Feeney doesn't get enough praise from me for the amount of work he gets through in the middle of the field for Nafeen. I think he gets through an awful lot of work. Does he pick up Oisin? I think Larkin McMullen as well. We would have had problems over the couple of years against Crokes. Dealing with Larkin too, like, he really gets around the place. He's a massive engine. For me, like, if you want to beat Nafina, you're looking at shutting down the Currys, shutting down AJ, shutting down Berkey, shutting down the role that Paul O'D has in that half back line. I thought he was very good the last day, got 2 points, but also he's a platform as well going forward. So I don't know if to answer your question, I'm not sure if either management will become too obsessed with their own matchups of the other team. Obviously 1 or 2, but they'd also be kind of saying, like, if I was Neil, I'd be sitting back saying, okay, I want 1 or 2 matchups right, but I want Crokes to worry about my team as much as I do worrying about theirs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Paul, will it be who reacts, I guess, best on the day to those changes is who's gonna come out on top? So will the battle nearly be won on the sideline as much as on the pitch?
I think the management and the in-game decisions are going to have a massive impact on it. Like, Crokes all year have played Plan A, and it's worked every single day. And believe it or not, if I was playing against Crokes, I think you need to shut down Pádraig Linehan, and you need to shut down Mark Rogan, because of the quality of ball that they're delivering into the inside line. The diagonal ball they're delivering in is absolutely, look, it's very easy stop. And like, I can see Shane Barrett at wing forward having a really big role at trying to shut down one or the other of the boys. Like, I think that's going to be a massive one that Nafina are going to look to do. Like, in terms of inside, and Joe's right, like, Kev Burke has been excellent. I'm not entirely sure they have a second man to look after Alex and Ronan inside, just because of the matchups. Donal Ryan could end up going cornerback possibly, or if there's problems in game, Liam Rush for his physicality could end up back there. Possibly not, but look, it's an option they have available to them as well. But it's going to be a really interesting one. I think Nafina need to stop the boys further out the field, around midfield, like Larkin McMullen, Dylan Mulligan, Oisin O'Rourke, around that middle area of the field is really hard to stop them. Like, really hard to stop them because of the energy they have. And I think Crokes possibly have the advantage there in the middle of the field, in just with the energy they have. And it'll be interesting to see. And like, they have the likes of Fergal Whiteley there as well. Like, Fergal Whiteley is, in my eyes, is absolutely top class and is going to have a massive impact on this game. And he's played different roles with Crokes through the years, and I think where he is at the moment, he's doing real damage for them. Like, then you look at it from a Crokes perspective. I think Crokes are just going to try and play their own game that they have been playing. They might let Donald Burke clip his few points from the outside. I'm with Joe. I'm with Joe on this. I don't think Bill should mark him. Bill actually made a number of really high quality tackles getting back to the full back line. And now some of them are fouls as Bill does, but he was shutting things off as a real pivot in the centre of that the centre of that Crokes defence, you know, and like I don't know what they're going to do with Donald Burke. I think Davy Crowe will possibly mark Colin Curry on the inside. But you know what, it's going to be really interesting because there's so many potential options of what can happen, you know, and I actually think some of the marking, as I said, marking of them Crokes backs is some of the most important stuff for the Fianna. And then from a Crokes perspective, are you happy to let Donald Burke clip 5 or 6 points? Like we'll say, and Joe always had James Madden on him and done a fantastic job. But I'm not entirely sure that Crokes have the fella to do Donald Burke, and maybe Porrick Linehan could, or Davy Crowe could mark him, or Brian Sheehy, but that would slightly take away from some of the attacking impetus that they have as defenders, if you get me.
Dotsy, we've spoken about the attacking threat that both teams have, but and you know, we've heard here people maybe focusing on Donald Burke. You look at the quarter final, and Donald Burke didn't have, like, was kind of marked out of the game a good bit, but Colin Curry stepped up to the plate. The last day, Colin Curry scored 1-2, Donald Burke 9 points. There were 9 scores on both Kilmacud Crokes team and the Na Fianna team the last day, 9 scores in each. You look at, again, like for example, the last day, Alex Considine only got a point. He's been a key player from an attacking point of view for Crokes all this season. He only got a point, but Ronan Hayes won 6, Lorcan McMullen 2 points, Fergal Whiteley, Oisin O'Rourke, Dara Purcell all got 2 points. The same for Na Fianna. Donald Burke got 9 points, but Colin Curry hit 1-2. You had Paul O'Dea with 2 long-range points, obviously man of the match in that game. AJ Murphy got 2 points as well and scores from the bench. There's a lot of attacking threat right throughout the teams. I mean, you can't really focus on Ronan Hayes or Alex Considine or Donald Burke and Colin Curry because both teams have options right throughout the pitch to get scores.
Yeah, Derek, I think that's why we're also looking forward to this game, you know, and we can talk about the matchups there, like the boys are saying, but it's just there's so many options, and it's a great sign of a team when, you know, you mentioned the amount of scores that they had, and that was even in the first half. I think Na Fianna had a massive amount of scores, so it's the sign of a team in form, and it's the sign of a team that have a lot of quality players that can do that. So yeah, look, threats all over the field, and it's just yeah, I have to say, really looking forward to it, and who can kind of get into their groove and who can get into their form, and kind of, as the boys mentioned, county final day, you know, is there added pressure there, or who can kind of come in and just hurl away and you know, get at the opposition defense, you know, and it'll be intriguing. There'll be intriguing battles going on, and it'll be fascinating to see what the management teams do and who picks up who, and do they follow them, and you know, I'm just, I suppose, looking forward to that nearly, you know, as the overall game as well. So yeah, look, it'll be a lot of decisions to be made by management teams as well, but they'll certainly be hoping that you know, as Joe mentioned there as well, you ultimately you have to kind of, you know, you start thinking about other teams, and that starts getting into your head. You're taken away from yourself. So ultimately, you get yourself right, and you know, you try to bring them levels, them aggression levels, and the work rate, as Paul mentioned there, can, you know, closing down opposition. Kind of, can your forwards get blocks in and stop ball going in? That could be as big as a lift as a score. You know, if forwards are closing down and hunting defenders and putting them on the back foot as well. So I think a lot of it will come down to that sort of thing, as much as the scores and the tallies and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, Derek. Yeah.
Another interesting matchup, actually, of sorts, is the 2 goalkeepers. Like, obviously Eddie was in goal with the Dublin under-20s, and Jono was previously in goal with Dublin under-21s, and he's on the senior panel at the moment. I actually think Eddie should be up with the senior panel for next year. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. The 2 of them are going to have a massive bearing on the game because, like, we'll say, the quality of their striking and the trajectory of their puck outs, etc., and hitting moving targets, I think is something that's, again, is going to have a massive bearing on it. And like Jono, the last day, in the second half, like he hit every single one of his puck outs. Like they'd 100% success in them, and it wasn't 100% success hitting the corner back. It was hitting varied puck outs, and the fact that Jono is so varied with his puck outs can cause serious problems for Crokes. And we'll say the way that their half back line and I've complimented Pádraig Linehan and Mark Rogan a lot for the quality of what they're doing going forward. I think that there could possibly be pockets there for Na Fianna to expose, because the lads do hold their positions, and they're having to deal with Jono hitting laser puck outs to hand is going to be something that Crokes are going to possibly have a little bit of difficulty with, you know. And then like Eddie on the other side is going to is going to be hitting a lot of quality ball. And like, what's the plan B for Crokes? Like if Na Fianna shut their puck outs down similar to they did against Luke, and could Ronan Hayes come out to the half forward line and try and win ball out there, which he's well capable of doing, you know. So there's lots to be said for the impact the goalkeepers are going to have on it as well.
Okay, good stuff. Let's hear briefly from both camps ahead of Saturday's game. First up, it's the Kilmacud Crokes camp. Okay, joined by Kilmacud Crokes Eddie Gibbons ahead of the go-ahead Dublin Senior A Hurling Final this weekend against Na Fianna here at Parnell Park, Saturday evening at 6 o'clock. A big week for Kilmacud Crokes and for Na Fianna. Eddie, how's preparation going for you so far?
Yeah, no, luckily enough we have our second team are also in the B final, so we've been doing a bit of work with them and working away ourselves. So yeah, I think we're in a good place coming up to it on Saturday.
From your own point of view, this is your second county final. You're involved in 2018, obviously defeating 2018 to Ballybowden St Enda's, but that experience of county finals for yourself and for a good few of the guys on the panel will, I'm sure, be of help this week in terms of you know what to expect come Saturday evening.
Yeah, no, I was on the subs bench that day, but I think even being around the panel in 2018 was a good experience, because I think we have a lot of young players in the team, so I think we'll need part of our panel to have a decent bit of experience coming into it. What
can you expect from Na Fianna this weekend?
We're expecting a physical game. They're good hurlers as well as a fast, pacey team, so yeah, no, we're expecting them to show everything at us and expecting a tough battle as well. Okay,
I'm joined by Sean Murphy from Na Fianna ahead of the go-ahead Dublin Senior A Hurling Final this weekend against Kilmacud Crokes. Plenty of excitement, Sean, around the club this week, I'm sure, ahead of a first ever county final for the club.
Yeah, look, it's really exciting. It's a big event for our club. Obviously, we've never been here before. We've had good success in football over the years, but yeah, no, it's really exciting. We're looking forward to it.
This is a young group of players that you have in the team, I guess. There's been a lot of excitement around this group of players for the last number of years, and obviously getting to a first senior final now is kind of testament to the work that's gone in at the club over the last few years.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of it's down to kind of the juvenile setup, I would say. Like, I think Na Fianna 3,000 members now at this stage. A lot of resources gone into developing the underage teams over time, and now we're starting to see the fruits of that over the last few kind of years and weeks.
I know there was disappointment last year. Obviously, you lost in the semi-final last year. One big addition since last year has been Liam Rush into the panel this year. What has he brought to the setup, both on the pitch in terms of his talent, but also in terms of experience in the dressing room as well?
Yeah, a lot. Like, Rushy's kind of like a natural born leader. He's kind of fit in really well both on and off the pitch, but he's just brought that kind of experience with him. He's been there and done that at kind of a high level, so yeah, he's been a great addition so far.
What do you expect from Kilmacud Crokes on Saturday?
A challenge, a big test. Crokes have been there and done that before. They're a great team, a lot of respect for Kilmacud, and yeah, they'll put it up to us for sure, but we're absolutely ready for the challenge.
Okay, welcome back. Joe, I guess Na Fianna, you played Na Fianna last year in the semi-final of the Dublin Championships, winning that game. You've seen them this year. How have they changed? How have they improved? The obvious thing might be the introduction of Rush into that centre-back line. Is that the big difference between them from last year to this year?
Yeah, it's the significant difference. But I suppose if you look at as well, Na Fianna for a number of years were under similar management, and I suppose Neil came in last year and with Roche as well. And look, Roche's been around enough Dublin squads to see the quality of player. Like, he's reared half of those Na Fianna lads in some ways from DCU and from Dublin perspective as well. So look, have they changed that much? No, but I can't overemphasize to anybody who knows Dublin hurling. You know, I had Rushy as a minor in 07. I had him with DIT as well. You know, he's just a massive presence in at 6. And I suppose I've heard Paul say a few times in regards to when you have Rushy there, he was looked at by certain managements as a 14 at times, and like that's fine. And I suppose he was doing what a Considine and Hayes are doing now on the basis that he was driving at goal. But I just love having him at 6. I think he's dropped a lot of weight as well. I think he's back in physical, really good shape. But overall, the Fianna just have become better at what they were doing last year. Look, they would have been very disappointed to lose that semi-final, I'd imagine, to Ballyboden. You know, again, going back to what Paul said, the keepers will have obviously a significant input on this game as well. But you know, there was maybe a couple of decisions last year that the Fianna may not have been happy against with ourselves, and that goes down to another issue for this Saturday evening is referee wise. And look, we are somewhat lucky in Dublin as well. You know, I suppose Chris Mooney and Sean Stack and Tom Gleeson have got on a national level now too. The 3 of them are involved, I think, on Saturday, and then you have David Aston there as well. You have Paul Fogg, and all those guys have really lifted their game. Jason Buckley. So the standard of refereeing, like if you look at the Kilkenny County Final yesterday, just chatting to my own father coming down the road, and he was saying it was brilliant. He let it go, and like Chris he did our final in 18. He will let that happen. Like look. He likes the old card as well here and there too, but he will allow the game to flow. He will allow that physicality to happen. He gets respect from all the hurling, I suppose, teams and camps. I suppose both sets of management will know that he'll allow that physical game to happen, and it may suit for the guys like us up in the stand who don't have an emotive involvement with it anymore. It may suit us, and it might allow for that real physical battle to happen. And if it does, I think it might suit Crokes a little bit more. Like I've been very impressed that Fianna have backed up all of the doubters, and it probably hurts players too as well. Like I remember going down the country with Dublin, and the only compliment you ever got with a Dublin team was, geez, they're very physical, they're very strong. You never got a compliment about how well they were playing, and you might come out of Clare or Limerick or Cork and haven't beaten them, but you might get a compliment about their physicality, and that sticks in your gut sometimes too. And I look at what Fianna have done now; they've backed up the talk, but again, it comes down to the final, and finals are not easily won, and the 2 boys there, which as well, will know that when you get to a final, you could have all the prep done, and the Fianna have their game plan ready to go, and to have them bouncing off the ground, and all of a sudden it just doesn't work. So overall, Rushy, massive influence. I really like as well the fact that the 2 Crummies, or the 2 Currys, I should say, have really gone over and beyond what people have said about them. I haven't seen too much of them apart from at Dublin level, and at club level this year they've been a lot better than what they have been in previous years. So that for me is the standard thing.
Paul, the Kilmacud Crokes have a different management team this year. It's Kieran and Donal are in this year. What have they brought to the table that maybe hasn't been there the last few years, or is this a kind of continuation of what they've been building at Crokes for the past few years?
Yeah. Joe said it earlier on. They backed youth, and they backed the future, and I think it is massive from a Dublin perspective that they are so young, and there's a number of young lads with Fianna as well. But like the age profile of that defence for Crokes is like of the back 6 and the goalkeeper, like 5 of them are the under 21, like, and that's some show of faith into them lads, and
probably massive credit, Paul, as well. Sorry for it, but massive credit probably to Closh to own as well, isn't it? Like the work that the player did out there, and the work that's been done in general from a schools level out there. Like you see what I suppose they exemplify high performance out in Closh to own, and all those lads are coming through now. And like you said, the management are backing them, and it's a brave move. But in fairness, let's be honest about it, they were successful with you, they were successful with Closh to own, so they're not taking 5 or 6 young lads from that famous saying from the Red Cow either. Like they're going and they're looking at lads who are successful at Dublin underage level, Dublin schools level, and a lot of that comes back to that pathway that Crokes, in fairness to them, have created from schools right up to the club as well.
And in fairness, like Niall Corcoran, they've put in massive structures, is working there as a games promotion officer, and like they've put the structures in place there. And I mean, listen, they're in the senior B final here as well, you know. So like there's an army of quality players coming through here, and it's, you know, it's a little scary for the rest of the county looking on, you know.
Yeah, you know, it is, and that's like the impact Aidan the players had on it, and he was involved with the management team last year, and he started this process in school and got them into the senior setup, bedded them in last year, and they're really just flourishing now. And we'll say there'll be maybe, and Joe talked about, we'll say, Na Fianna being questioned for their character and their work rate. Oftentimes you kind of hear that about Crokes as well. Like if I was going to battle and to war, some of them young lads who are in that Crokes defence are the exact type of fellas you want. And the fact that they are 20, 21 years of age, but they're men and they're dogged men and used to playing, we'll say, with Closh own in shit conditions in the winter, and learned a huge amount from going down to Kieran's and Peters and good counsel and winning games, massive games down there. So like that has a massive impact, and just the more exposure that lads are getting to the high level hurling at schools and colleges level and county level, it just all filters and bodes well into, we'll say, the Dublin senior setup going forward, you know.
Yeah, and Dotsy, you mentioned earlier on the expectations around Na Fianna, that they've been there for the last number of years. They're a coming team. They're going to click. They have all these, you know, this quality coming through from at underage level. There's probably expectations on both teams as well. You mentioned the quality coming through at Crokes. Could that play a big part this weekend in terms of who handles the pressure and the expectation of a county final, but also the expectations around these two teams going into this final as well? Will that play a part in terms of that? And who do you think maybe is better to handle that? Would you feel that, you know, obviously Na Fianna have Rushy in there, and Donald Burke is an experienced player at this stage despite his young age. Would Crokes, do you feel, have maybe that bit more, slightly more experience in there with the likes of Oisin O'Rourke and Fergal Whiteley, that maybe that might be a help?
Yeah, I suppose I'll tell you when the ball is thrown in, Derek. But like it's yeah, like I mean, as the lads mentioned, there's always them question marks, and players hate that, to be questioned. And you know, is he tough enough? Is he, you know, he's a great underage player. You know, he can't do it at senior level or whatever. So as we mentioned here, there's a lot of players kind of that have been spoken about in underage and in Dublin terms as well. So it's fantastic to see lads maybe stepping up at senior club level, and, you know, shown how good of a player they are, and making that step up as well. So yeah, I suppose, look, a lot of these guys have experience. I don't think they'll be overawed by the occasion or anything like that, but certainly it will add, there is an added element to it, you know, being a county final. So maybe a couple of the Crokes lads would have a bit of experience of that. But look, all these boys have played in underage. A lot of them have played underage for Dublin, have played in maybe provincial finals, and the lads mentioned skills, hurling and stuff like that as well. So I don't think it'll be, I think both teams will be, you know, I think the preparations that both management teams will be doing, I think they'll be all about going out and performing on the pitch, and I wouldn't expect it to play a huge factor, you know. I think listen, I think it'll come down to who's the better team on the day ultimately. Okay, it's almost predictions time, lads, so get the thinking hats on. I'm going to put you under pressure in the next couple of minutes. But first of all, before we do that, I have our second club focus slot of the show. We heard earlier on from the Na Fianna chairman, Paul Smith. Now it's time to hear from the Kilmacud Crokes chairman, Kevin Foley, on what's going to be a pretty busy couple of weeks for his club. Obviously, Crokes in the Senior A Hurling Final this weekend and the Senior 1 Football Final the following weekend. Here he is. Okay, I'm joined now by the Kilmacud Crokes chairman, Kevin Foley. Kevin, thanks a million for joining us. A busy and a big couple of weeks for yourself and for the club, obviously, with some big finals coming up over the next few weeks. So thanks a million for joining us.
Great, thanks, Derek. Yeah, great to be here and have a chance to chat with you.
Busy
time and a good time. It's a good, fun time, yeah.
Yeah, big excitement around the club, I'm sure. I mean, even this weekend alone, you've got the Senior A and Senior B Hurling Finals and the Minor A Football Final taking place this weekend. And obviously the Senior 1 Football Final the weekend after. So big excitement around the club, I'm sure, at the moment.
There's huge excitement around the club, Derek, and a lot of work going on to involve all of our club. And there's a lot of people there. We had a great meet and greet session with our senior hurlers there on Sunday, where the kids, loads and loads of the kids came along and met the hurlers and had a crossbar challenge with them. And so there's a lot of excitement around the place, and a lot of pleasure that these folk who have worked so hard, so really, really hard to get themselves ready for these championships are advancing so well. And it's huge credit to those players, huge credit to those players through all this lockdown experience, etc. Huge credit to their mentors, managers, our coaches, and indeed all of their managers and coaches down the years. These are all guys who grew up in our schools, and the teachers worked hard with them all through their times in school. So it's just a really, really exciting time for us as a club. As you know, Derek, it is not easy to get into championship finals in any code at any time. And for us to find ourselves looking forward as we are with great hope and enjoyment for the next couple of weeks, it's just a great thing for us as a club.
Yeah, and I've seen on social media some of the colours, the club colours around Kilmacud and Stillorgan area, ahead of the hurling final this weekend. I'm sure they'll be staying up for the next couple of weeks as well. So great to see that excitement around the club as well. Tell us a little bit about for people who don't know much about Kilmacud Crokes. Tell us about where you're based and how old you are, I guess, how many members you have as a club as well.
So we're based in the Kilmacud Stillorgan area. We're here since the late 1950s, early 1960s, when the housing was being built in around the area, and really the community came together, door-to-door collections and whatnot, to purchase a piece of ground in the middle of Stillorgan, which is our home base now in Glenalbin. Had been a big old house in Stillorgan. So in the early 1960s, with the help of the county board and door-to-door collections, we bought that piece of ground, which is our home pitch now, Portaburka, all these years later. And throughout the 1960s, some kind of interesting things happened insofar as Crokes Hurling Club kind of amalgamated with us. We're located as we were in Stillorgan. And then Ben Burbs, which is from Clonskee, just down the road, also amalgamated with us. So we're kind of a product of a new club established in the beginning of the 1960s, and a couple of much older clubs from around the area. Ben Burbs, who didn't even have a pitch at the time, and neither did Crokes, and both of them kind of amalgamated with us. But we were a small club then, a very small club. When I first began knocking around Kilmacud, no senior football team until really the late 1980s, and senior hurling team since the early 1970s, and then the growth of Camogie throughout the late 1970s, thanks to people like the great Eileen Hogan. Some people listening to this might have heard of Eileen. And then John Sheridan, who came to us with Ben Burbs, established the ladies football section in the late 1970s, early 1980s. So we're now a club which has teams operating in football, hurling, ladies football, and camogie, and all pulling away together. So that's it. And we have a very large membership, and people do know that, and that means a huge amount of volunteer effort and work to keep the club going. Our philosophy, Derek, basically is when kids show up on our door in September, and 170, 200 of them do that every September at 5 years of age, 6 years of age. We don't have a policy or a philosophy of saying no to anybody. And we don't go out recruiting people, but we do try to provide an opportunity for those kids to grow through and achieve their sporting potential in Gaelic games. And we put a lot of effort into helping their mammies and daddies be coaches. We, Padraig MacDonald, our head coach, and Niall Corcoran, our GPO, both of those guys work a kind of a coach to coaches type program. It's the only way we can work. And mammies and daddies, some of them who never had anything to do with Gaelic games before, when their kids come to us at 5 and 6 years of age, though they work through their kids' sporting lives as coaches and mentors and general supporters of their children as they progress. And that's the real key feature of our club. And so that's us. We're in Stillorgan. Huge volunteer effort. Believe it or not, Derek, we have over 1,000 Garda registered volunteers, and that is some Garda vetted volunteers. That is some incredible data, and it's just a product of the quality of what's happening, I think. I mean, I think mammies and daddies like what they see in the club, and like the participation that they get, and like the way that their children are facilitated to be the best they can be. Very, very few of our members will play county finals at senior one grade in camogie, ladies football, hurling and football. So our club isn't really it isn't about winning championships. We love to win championships. We love our good players to advance. But it's really about every child and every young person and every adult who's in the club gets an opportunity to play the games and gets an opportunity to be the best that they can be. And indeed, if our players head off into other sports, we celebrate that as well. The idea of young people growing in sport is something that's really central to us. So when Deirdre Duke puts on that green jersey for the Irish hockey team, we delight in that. Deirdre, a long-time ladies footballer with us, has achieved such fulfilment there. Ian Madigan, when he pulls on that Ulster shirt, we're delighted to see Ian there and proud of him. He won a Fela with Kilmacud Crokes, a local guy. So it's all about sport. It's all about helping the children and young adults to be what they can be in sport. And if we're lucky enough to have players who are good enough and are prepared to work hard enough to get themselves into championship finals, well, then that's a real happy day, and it's just great fun. And on Sunday, we're hoping, and we know that lots and lots of the little children from around the club will fetch up in Parnell Park and hopefully have a great day and enjoy the event and the occasion.
Yeah, and Saturday, the Saturday evening is a
Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday, yeah. That is a big occasion, obviously, for the senior hurlers. A first county final since 2018. Obviously, looking for a first win since 2014. And the senior one footballers coming up the weekend after that against St. Jude's in the final, looking for a first county title since 2018 as well. What does it mean to be back in the? You mentioned that the club is more than just senior one and senior A finals, but what does it mean for the club to be back in these finals, especially after it's been a very difficult last 2 years for everybody? I'm sure everybody throughout the whole country, but certainly everybody in Kilmacud Crokes as well. To be back in these finals after the last year and a half must be something special for the club as well.
And just to say, Derek, back in a league final with our lady footballers who won their semi-final last night, a league semi-final. But what does it mean? It means that it's an achievement that has been worked so very, very hard for by our hurling and football and lady footballer people in the club. We're lucky to have a group of players in all those codes who are prepared to work so hard. Like any club, we know how to lose championships. We've done it often enough. We have won championships, so we know how to treasure those moments as well. So it doesn't happen often. As you mentioned, we've been knocking around waiting for not waiting, but hoping to achieve success in senior one hurling for a few years now. We're in a final again on Sunday. I know the players are keyed up for it. They're excited about it. They've worked really, really hard for it. But the club is really proud of these players for the work that they do and the way they conduct themselves on the pitch. And look, county final time is super exciting. We have a team working around with the businesses and various elements of the community in Stillorgan to try and make the occasion bigger, better, and flags and bunting and let the community know what's going on. Because a lot of people who live in Stillorgan don't know pretty much anything about Kilmacud Crokes, although we're right there in the middle. Now, I should say, Derek, by the way, we've just completed the floodlighting after all these years of the Port de Borca pitch, and we'll be switching on those lights in the coming couple of months, and then the people of Stillorgan will definitely know we're there. But there's huge excitement around the place and around the club, and people are just taking such great pleasure. We do know that Kieran Dowling and his management team have done such hard work with this hurling squad, but really players training on their own throughout the lockdown, following programs, yes, on their own, then coming together and working so hard. And one of the great sources of pride for us, I think, is the way that that senior hurling team played their semi-final. They worked so hard for 60 odd minutes, which is great to see. As you watch your team on a field, when you see the players 1 to 15 or 1 to 30 working so hard for 60 minutes, that's a great moment of pride for you, win, lose or draw. And so it's the effort of this team has got us to a county final, and we are buzzing. The club is excited. We have just over we've a lot of members, and there's just a great pride. You see your jersey out there in those biggest moments in Dublin County hurling, and the following weekend with football. I mean, again, the football the other night, it was the hard work on the field. We're so proud of that. We were so proud of it, and we look forward with expectation. But look, it's to be fair, all of those guys on our football and hurling teams, they've grown up in our local schools. Our teachers have been out there in the evenings after school, all as they were growing up. Mentors, volunteer coaches when they were young underage players, and they've developed this commitment within themselves to get the best out of themselves in their sport. And thankfully, the quality of what's happening between Robbie Brennan as our manager in football, Baggio as he's known around the club from his playing days, and Kieran Dowling, they put together and facilitated these two teams to be the best they can be, and we're just delighted that they've got our club name out there onto the pitch in county final day, one Sunday after the other, and our camogie and our ladies footballers coming along into a league final afterwards. So look, it's a good time. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, you got to make the best of it. And there's so many people that put so much work into hurling, into football, into ladies football and camogie in our club for decades, since those early days in the 1960s. In fact, Derek, our very first club secretary was a guy called Larry Ryan, and Larry is our club patron right now. And Larry has been with this club and practically at every match that was ever played in it since the early 1960s. And Larry, I know, is looking forward to this weekend and the weekend after with great excitement. He's one of the greats of our club. But when we reflect back on the decades and decades of service and commitment of Larry Ryan, we just, that's a feature of our club that we're really, really proud of. And all of our players here, that are products of our local schools, or the products of our juvenile teams, so we're really, really looking forward to it. And that minor A football, by the way, just to mention that in passing, that's another great moment. How often does a club get to a minor A football final? They're really hard got to. And, as everybody knows who's involved in GAA, that's a really tough championship, as is minor hurling, tough championships. And so to have a squad of players who have the ability and the dedication to get there, great pride.
Fantastic. Yeah. You mentioned there as well a few minutes ago about the community. I guess you've spoken there about the fact that this is more than a club that's looking for Senior 1, Senior A titles. This is a community club as well. How important is Kilmacud Crokes to the community? You're obviously a member of the community yourself as well. How does, I guess, the club contribute to the community outside of just what we see here in Parnell Park this coming Saturday and the following Sunday as well?
Yeah, and just as you say, Derek, I mean, Kilmacud Crokes is the community, and the community is Kilmacud Crokes. So we're very much conscious of the fact that we are of our community. And our home clubhouse, which was one of those old houses that populated around Dublin in the years, and, the members and volunteers put the cash together to buy the thing in door-to-door collections back in the 1960s. But that clubhouse operates meeting rooms and facilities which are open to the community across the piece. So we have history societies, we have community groups, we've all sorts of organisations benefiting and using our facilities in our clubhouse. We have a cafe run there by Mick Kinsella Monday to Sunday. And it is a great meeting place for all the people of Stillorgan, whether or not Kilmacud and Stillorgan, whether or not they're members of Kilmacud, and they can sit there in comfort, park their car outside and have a cup of coffee and meet their friends. And that's a real feature of where we are. Throughout this pandemic, our team, led by our health and wellbeing officer, Ciara Brown, was involved in supporting and helping people who were locked down and needed support with shopping and one thing and another. We completed over 2,000 jobs, if you like, for members of the community throughout that period. And really one of the amazing things there, and I'm sure other clubs will have experienced the same, the way people who have nothing to do with the GAA come to know some of the young people who are doing jobs for them throughout that lockout. And even now, some of those relationships are maintaining, and are some of our members who were involved in that effort are calling in and knocking on doors and having a cup of tea with people who they helped throughout the thing. So there's all of that. But we also, every kind of autumn, winter, for the last number of years, initiated by a guy called Kevin Mulligan, whose son Dylan will be hurling for us on Sunday, put together this Crokes Talks initiative, which is all about physical and mental health and well-being of not alone of the members of Kilmacud Crokes, but of the community. And we've operated with the help of the HSE programs on stress and what have you, open to the entire community. We've had our Couch to 5Ks, our cycling group, which has grown out of that, has well over 100 adult members out cycling every weekend. Those of us who are a bit too old now to be putting on the jersey are out on the bikes on the road, so it's a real kind of a reach out thing, and we have a really fantastic thing happening in our club for the last number of years, as I know some other clubs have, which carries the banner of inclusion. But really, we know that in our community and in our membership, many people face physical and mental challenges, which mean that they have particular needs if they're going to become involved fully in their club and to be involved in our club. And Ciara Brown and her team, week in, week out, are operating and working on inclusion programs, as I know other clubs are. And one of the most fantastic things that happens in our club for the last number of Christmases, including outdoors through the pandemic, has been what we call a sensory Santa. Where Santa arrives in the run up to Christmas, and those young people, young children who wouldn't be comfortable in the meeting Santa in the normal environment where Santa operates, Santa finds time to come to our club and meets those children in an appropriate kind of a setting and a context, and that really is just such a wonderful thing to see. So our club, it's about the entire community. Yes, we want to facilitate people being the best they can be in Gaelic game, but we also want to facilitate community engagement, using our facilities and meeting and being involved in various other activities, including things like 25 through the winter nights and what have you. So all sorts. We're open. Our doors are open to the community, and the community, thankfully, know that and come through our doors, and we engage with our community because we are the community. So it's very much that living element of the community that we are. We're a feature of the community, but our doors are open and people walk through them. So yeah, we believe that we make our contribution to our own community as individuals and as members of Kilmacud Crokes.
Fantastic. You've mentioned there the floodlights are obviously being turned on soon in Portaburka. What else? I'm sure there's plenty going on at the club. What aims have you got for the future of the club to keep it growing? Because it's been a growing club for the last 50 years or 60 years. So what else? What are the aims now over the next few years to continue that growth?
Well, our top priority, Derek, is facilities. With the type of numbers that we have in the club, it's a constant weekly, daily headache to find facilities to play matches and secure training facilities. So we have our home pitch in Glenalbin. We have a couple of pitches up beside Leopardstown Racecourse, which we were lucky enough to nip in and get our hands on there almost 30 years ago, and that's it. That's the size of our facilities, notwithstanding the tens and tens of teams that we have. We have 3 pitches, and so therefore we are working in partnership and in community with our local council, Delier Down County Council, who I have to say are great partners for us. And it's a key aim for us is to grow that partnership and develop that partnership such that we can access the facilities that the council has at its disposal. So that's a key aim for us. A key aim for us is to develop that health and well-being side of our club and the activities that I've spoken about. That's key for us. Again, we have to maintain this coaches type of model, and we have to grow and resource that. And Niall Cork and Port MacDonald, key features of that over the years, and we have to keep at that. And our communication, obviously, as many clubs will know, keeping contact and communication effectively with our members is a big challenge. But really our key thing is, we don't have grandiose aims. We want to make the best of the facilities that we have. We know that there is no other ground around the place where we're operating that you could get your hands on and make a pitch. And even if you could, we couldn't afford it. So we have to make the best of the facilities that we have. And that's why we're maximizing the Portaburka facility and putting on those lights there, which hopefully will give us a little bit more use there, and growing that partnership with Dún Laoghaire. So really, it's about just making the best of what we have, being the best that we can be in our community, meeting the sporting needs of our members of all abilities and all needs and supports, and just being the best that we can be for people to be the best that they can be, and then to support ourselves in our own wellness and in our own ability to reflect on the challenges that are there in modern life. And and I know, Derek, that young people growing up today, well, you're a lot younger than me, but I know that the young people today face a lot more challenges than I ever faced, and having a regard to the way the modern world goes. And I know that Ciara and her team are very, very focused on supporting our community of young people, and indeed adults, including people as ancient as myself, to be well, and to be well in themselves. And we have this model of operating called Crokes Talks, which was initiated really by Kevin Mulligan, as I mentioned, but Lucy Mannion also, Paul's sister, actually, Lucy, such an engine she was for developing this idea of people talking to each other, and young people talking to each other. If you're not feeling well, and you talk to somebody, look for support, reach out there, and it's a key for us to keep that kind of culture there, and to help our young people to understand the value of talking to each other at all times. So that's a key dimension. I mean, we're a club in a modern world. We've got to behave in a modern way, be the best that we can be on the field, win those championships if we can win them.
Yes.
But if we can't, just be the best that we can be on the field. And if it's good enough to win a championship, well, then it'll be good enough to win a championship. But if it isn't, well played for trying. And, people do make the best of themselves. Win, lose or draw, you feel good coming off the pitch. I think, anyway, you feel maybe bad for the moment. But if you think you've done your best, well, then that's a great thing. So, look, that's where we're going into the future.
Fantastic. You talked earlier on, just finally, about the volunteers, the amount of volunteers. You have over 1,000 Garda vetted volunteers in the club. For people who, want to get involved in Kilmacud Crokes, maybe live in the area, don't know how to get involved, how do they do that? And what sort of work would you be looking for them to get involved with in the club as well, if they are so inclined?
Well, the last bit is anything and everything that we can convince the volunteer to do, because as you know, a club has so many things going on, keeping a place clean, keeping a place in order, supporting teams, supporting the physical operation of the club. If you've got a bit of a nous about you in terms of administration, we've got plenty of that as well, and we have a club office that's happily we've managed to kind of keep open all the time, which anybody in our community and area can drop in and just talk about that. We have a website, www.kilmacudcrokes.com. Hook onto that and make contact with the club through that. We have our Twitter accounts, which is amazingly Kilmacud Crokes GAA, and stuff like that. So DMs are possible there, and but we're there all the time. Anybody in our area who'd like to become involved in the club, drop down to the club office anytime during the day and knock on the door. Or alternatively, drop down to Glenalbin at the weekend, where you're going to see some heck of an action, and just tap somebody on the shoulder and say that you're interested. Drop an email to us, info@glenalbin.ie. Will work as well, and we'll respond. So, the more the merrier to help us to do what we're doing in that club. And we do have some fantastic things happen, by the way, just to say it, Derek. We do have our mini All-Irelands in the middle of the summer, and wow, what a thing that is, that goes on in the middle of Stillorgan, with over 1,000 children, girls and boys, playing the games in hopefully sunny summer weather. We have our All-Ireland Sevens that take place in September across all codes. Have been there since 1973. That's a great day, and we need a lot of volunteers to make that work, where you're meeting people from all over the country playing Gaelic games. And so we have these events going on where we always need volunteers. So anybody who just would like to be involved with the development of youth in sport in their community, please knock on our door. We really could always do with the help, and you don't have to know anything about the GAA or the playing of the games to make a really useful contribution to your community through Kilmacud Crokes. So hopefully, people will feel confident just to come along and knock on the door. And unfortunately, if you do that, you'll never get out again, because we'll hold on to you.
That's the warning there before you do. So kilmacudcrokes.com is the website. Check out Kilmacud Crokes on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as well to get involved in a great club. Obviously, a lot of work going on at the club for the last number of years, and coming to fruition on the senior pitches over the past few weeks and over the next couple of weekends as well, obviously in the Senior 1 and Senior A finals. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin, to tell us all about the great work Kilmacud Crokes is doing, and best of luck over the next 2 weekends as well.
Thanks very much, Derek. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin Foley there ahead of a busy couple of weeks for his club. Okay, predictions time, guys. We're going to put you under the spotlight now at this stage. I know you love this part of the show where we can play it back in a week's time and show how wrong you all were. How do you see this game going? Where do you see the game being won and lost? We'll start with Dotsy in the top right-hand corner. Where do you see this game being won and lost?
Start with me again.
Start with you, Dotsy, yes.
Joe owes me a few bob from the last game, which I haven't seen yet. So.
True.
But yeah, no, I suppose I've been happy enough with my prediction so far. But this one, Derek, I think I'm changing my mind on this one from day to day. So look, it's just really looking forward to it. Who would I tip? I probably, I might edge towards Kilmacud a little bit. I just think maybe that they've, we talked about score, and I think just having Oisin and Dara Purcell, potentially out, and Lorca McMullen, I think these guys are very capable of just knocking scores as well, and I just think they might get their scores, their spread. They might get more out of the players around the pitch as well. So listen, that's a hesitant nod for Kilmacud. It's completely. It's nearly 50-50 in my eyes as well, and should be a cracking game. But I'll give Kilmacud the nod, Derek.
Dotsy hedging his bets there. Paul, you're up next. Who do you see taking the title this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to put pressure on Joe here now because I'm going to go for Na Fianna. So Joe's going to have the casting vote on it. And you know what? I think Na Fianna are going to have their homework done, and they're going to shut down a number of things that Crokes have done well all year. I've said this already, and I it's going to be really interesting to see what new stuff Crokes bring to it, which I'm sure they will. But I'm gonna go with Na Fianna just because I feel they're really adaptable, and it is going to be close. It's not going to be like the two semi-finals, I don't think, where one team ends up showing up and another doesn't. I think both teams are going to show up, and we're going to have a really good game, but I'm going to shade with Na Fianna.
So Joe, the deciding vote, one each, go for it.
Yeah, I suppose you go back to that famous phrase that I think TJ Ryan used with Dalo there a few months ago. This final is like a deaf dog. It's just hard to call. Look, there's a conversation and an argument for both of them. I'm not going to sit on the fence. I'll tell you who I think will win at the end. But I think the finals are just so hard won. And at club level, I suppose a lot of people said to me when I was going to club to get involved with a club, you see what's involved and you see the passion that's there. Like I spoke earlier on about the community and the people behind it. And no matter what whatever Dublin, I suppose, history you've had to playing yourself, it kind of goes out the window because you're playing with lads that you grew up with and lads. I just think Kilmacud might have that little bit more hurt from 18, and I just think a couple of guys like McGowan, Bill O'Carroll, Whiteley's been there, Conway's been there, Lorca McMullen has been there, Ronan Hayes has been there. It's not that I want either team to win. I just think that bit of hurt coming from. I remember talking to Ballyboden in 18, because obviously we had Keeney and Simo and Durkin and Gary Maguire who'd been in so many county finals before, and so many others too. And I remember asked him to talk to the younger players like Mellett, and I said, what's the key message? And the key message from them was about basically enjoying it and performing. And when you have guys around the place when you get to that dark moment and there's a significant thing happening or reaction in a final, I just think the Crokes guys who have been there before may edge it for them. Would I be surprised to see Na Fianna win it? Absolutely not. And I think either of these two teams for Dublin hurling going forward, it breeds a sense of freshness and a sense of excitement going forward for what Matty has available to him. And I suppose even going on the whole championship, some of the teams coming up, Bowden have given some life to Luke, have given some life to younger players as well. And I think there is a changing of the guard coming, but to give it my call, I'm going to go with Crokes by just a couple of points.
Okay, Crokes to edge it out according to our expert panel, but certainly it looks like it's going to be a cracking game of hurling this weekend. Two pretty evenly matched teams in terms of even how they set up, so it promises to be a brilliant game of hurling. And we look forward to it. The game, by the way, obviously Saturday evening, 6 o'clock here at Parnell Park. It's also live on RTE TV if you can't make Parnell Park. Tickets are available on dublinga.ie for it as well. Before we go, a quick look at the Senior B and Intermediate finals as well, guys. Paul, we'll start with yourself. Senior B, a big weekend for Castleknock in the Senior B final. 2 Park Sunday afternoon against Kilmacud Crokes. How do you see this game going?
Jesus, it's going to sound bad now that I'm going against Crokes in both games. But I think, and we talked about Dublin hurling here. Crokes are a huge club, a fantastic club, and doing everything in the right way. And they have a lot of really good quality young lads on the team, like Ben Hines in goal. It'd be in goal with the vast majority of Senior A clubs in Dublin, like Brendan Scanlon scoring up in the forwards, and then they've a lot of lads who've obviously, with the young lads coming into the Senior A panel. With Crokes, it means that there's kind of a lot of, we'll say, strong men in their mid to late 20s who are with that Crokes side as well, and add that to the minors coming through, and Crokes are really formidable. And I probably want Castleknock to win because again, that just brings a bit of freshness to it. And I suppose from a Castleknock perspective, it's good to see Cian Boyle is doing savage damage for them every day they go out. Conor Murray, who's a really good hurler with Dublin minors and 20s over the last few years, he's been repositioned back into the half-back line and is getting to kind of show off his array of skills there. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And obviously they have a couple of their footballers like Kieran Kilkenny playing this year, and Luke Swan is playing, and it'll be interesting to see. Look, I probably think Crokes will shade it, but I would hope that Castleknock can get over the line. That's not anti-Crokes now, but
it sounds it. Joe, I guess, yeah. I mean, we spoke to Kevin O'Shaughnessy, the Castleknock chairman, a few weeks ago on their Club Focus here on the podcast, and he was talking about the great work being done at Castleknock over the past few years to build up both the footballers and the hurlers, and they're coming along very, very nicely. And this is another example of it in a senior final this weekend. A big game for them and a big chance for them to win a title as well against a Kilmacud Crokes team who, as I've mentioned already, they're in the Senior 1 football final the weekend after next, and 2 senior hurling finals as well. So it's a really big battle and a really big occasion for both clubs.
Absolutely. And look, I don't know if Paul O'Brien will be welcome for too many fancy coffees on the south side now anytime soon. I know about Crokes, but no, you have to take your hat off to what Crokes are doing at a football and hurling level. It's huge. For a club to be in the 3 finals, it's massively significant. But look, I just think Castleknock, it's great to hear about those young players, to hear young Swan is playing hurling. I think it's really important for Dublin going forward. Again, Kieran Kilkenny, good clubman as well. Really, it's important for them I think for Dublin hurling, having that name on a title coming over there. I know Emma Carroll's involved or was involved with them. And it's seeing the progression, like we've spoken about already, the progression that's needed in all these clubs, what it would mean to Castleknock as a club and a community to go and win a Senior B title would be massive. And you could argue the same for the players who put in a massive amount of work for Kilmacud also. But I'd go with Paul on this one. I just think from a Dublin hurling point of view, it would be great to see Castleknock win that one.
And Dotsy, the go-ahead intermediate hurling finals on this Sunday afternoon at Parnell Park at 2:30. It's Erinzal versus Fingallians, a competition you obviously know very well, having been Naomh Olaf manager this year. Naomh Olaf getting edged out by Erinzal in the semi-final. How do you see this final going on Sunday?
Yeah, I suppose we lost out to Erinzal last week, so they're a very strong team, and they've the experience. They've kind of lost a few semi-finals the last couple of years as well. They're also hurling in Division 2, and they'd be hurling quite well there as well and picking up a lot of notable results there. So they probably have played at a higher level. They've got some smashing players. There's Conor Donoghue has been in flying form throughout the whole championship. So he's doing a lot of damage to teams. So Fingallians will have their work cut out trying to nullify his influence. So Ryan O'Dwyer then is involved with Fingalians, and they've, you know, they in fairness to them, they were in the final last year. You know, could have easily won that as well. So they have that experience of a county final in Parnell Park as well. So it should be. I'd imagine it'd be very close, Derek. I would probably Aaron's Isle, I think, just have, in my eyes, would have a bit more experience. They've kind of been knocking on this door for a few years as well, and as I said, they've kind of been playing at that high level in Division 2 for a number of years as well. And Brian McCabe has done a great job there. And again, we spoke about clubs who are putting in work. They've been putting in savage work as well, and they've a lot of underage teams kind of coming up at a high level as well. So they're kind of making huge strides and progressing up the ranks as well. So same with Fingalians, to be fair. They've some great players coming up. They've Dara Power as well. Paul, known from the Dublin under-20s as well. He's in great form, and he's doing a lot of damage for Fingalians as well. They've Owen O'Connor inside doing a lot of damage in the full forward line. So it should be close. I'd give the nod to Aaron's Isle, just with their experience, and their, again, maybe playing at that higher level a bit more kind of consistently the last number of years. So should be a good one though. Look forward to it.
It's good as well to see Aaron's Isle back getting up to the level that they were previously at, because they're obviously a massively strong club in Dublin with a huge tradition, and it's good to see them back, and say them two Donoghue brothers and the likes of Conor Berrigan and Owen Carney. It's good to see them getting back up to that level. And like Dotsy mentioned Dara Power there, like it's good from a Dublin perspective that fellas from Fingalians, like the likes of Dara Power and Shane Howard and Sean Hickey and Owen O'Connor, who's played in goal at Dublin, like they've all played underage with Dublin and are really, really high quality players. And it's good that in the third tier championship of Dublin there's such high quality players playing there now, and it just shows the good work that we'll say the county board have done in putting structures in place to give lots of high quality games to hurlers in Dublin. And I think the club scene in Dublin, while we haven't got over the line in winning anything county wise, I think the club scene is really, really strong at the moment.
Okay, good stuff. Just a reminder, the Senior B Hurling Final is on Sunday afternoon at 2:30. It's Kilmacud Crokes versus Castleknock at O'Toole Park. And the Intermediate Hurling Final, Fingalians versus Aaron's Isle, Sunday afternoon 2:30 as well at Parnell Park. Tickets available on dublinga.ie for both of those games. Guys, listen, thanks a million for joining us on a big week for Dublin Hurling. Obviously, the Go Ahead Dublin Senior Hurling Championship wrapping up this week, the Senior A Final on Saturday. It's been great chatting to you all to get your insights into the games, all the games this weekend, and especially the Senior A Final. And thanks for joining us this week.
No bother.
And that is the Go Ahead Dublin Championship show for this week. A reminder that match tickets are now available on dublinga.ie for the Go Ahead Dublin Senior A, Senior B, Intermediate and Junior A hurling finals this weekend, as well as the Minor A football final. That's all on dublinga.ie. Check that out for details. And if you can't make the game on Saturday evening, the Go Ahead Dublin Senior A hurling final will be shown live on RTE Sport this Saturday evening with throw-in at 6 o'clock. So you can watch that wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in this week. Enjoy the games this weekend, and goodbye.